Hi everyone, welcome to the Navigate Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for tuning in for the 4 o'clock show on Primary Day Eve. I'd like to welcome my guest of the hour, Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi Kate, thanks for having me.
I appreciate your coming in. Now, as we were just discussing, GoLocal has on the site right now 10 things you need to know about Primary Day. Pretty comprehensive.
Fantastic read. I was just telling them that it is one of the most comprehensive reads on what you need to know for Primary Day. So go to GoLocal online today and you can read all about it.
Read all about it. So tell us a little bit before we go into the nuts and bolts of tomorrow. Of course, you worked on getting the voter website up and the information there already. But before we even tell the voters what's going on, tell us, these last few days getting ready for tomorrow, what have they entailed?
They've entailed a lot of work by a lot of people. Rhode Island elections are a community endeavor, and so you have our office that's been into making sure that our voter lists are clean and are good and are ready to go, and making sure that the ballots are done right. You've got the State Board of Elections, which is as we speak, making sure that everything's going to run well tomorrow, along with local boards of canvassers. It's a huge undertaking. There's 416 polling locations.
So tell us a little bit your day tomorrow. Where are you going to be throughout the day?
So I'll be going around a number of different places. My office will be receiving calls from voters who are trying to find their voting locations or have questions of any kind. But really, tomorrow is the Board of Elections Day, along with the local boards of canvassers.
You're ready to hand it off.
So it's their show. And what I try to do is to be as helpful as I can. So I will go around the state to try to figure out how things are flowing, making sure there's no issues, and then have conversations with the board as the day goes on.
And you and I were talking before the show started, and you said one of the most important things people can do as they get ready for tomorrow is to go online and to check their voting location. What happens if folks, they've moved around a lot and they see the place and they're like, oh, well, I don't think I'm supposed to go there. Is that the definitive, that is where you were supposed to be?
It is. The definitive place to be is what's on our Voter Information Center. If for some reason you have a doubt, you can call us tomorrow at 222-2340. We're pretty much there all election day, all primary day. But we've put a lot of work and effort into the Voter Information Center so that you can look up not just where you're going to go vote and actually get like a Google map directions, but also it's hyperlinked to the ballots. You can look at your ballot before you get there. Sometimes, people don't realize there's like a lot of different other races down the ballot, or down ballot as we call it, because all they hear about is the big ones, the governor's race, the statewides, the Congress, and really those decisions matter. So I really want to make sure that people are informed. Go ahead of time and look at your sample ballot. Elections are not pop quizzes. We give you the questions ahead of time so that you can study it and be informed, talk to your neighbors, talk to your spouse, whoever it is, so that you go in tomorrow and be ready to be a voter.
And so as you mentioned those down ballot races, of course it's been a campaign season. We've heard from a lot of candidates out there, but give us voters time too to be like, oh, maybe I should just take that last minute check and see a little bit about their platform, read up about them online to be that informed voter.
Yeah, and that's why having the sample ballot right in front of you, you're like, oh, I didn't realize so-and-so was running. And then you can Google them, you can look them up on Facebook. Candidates are out there a lot more than they used to be in terms of social media, so there's a lot that you can find out about people and their positions. I also want to say that the other thing that's really good on our online system is you can look at your voter information. You may think that you were still an unaffiliated voter, but maybe when you last went to vote in a primary, you voted in a particular primary, and then on the way out you ran into your neighbor, you had a conversation, and you forgot to fill out that disaffiliation form. And now you show up and they're like, no, you're in this party. And you're like, no, I've always been an unaffiliated voter. So it's better to not have those issues at the polling location. So we want to make sure that everybody goes to vote.ri.gov today before they go to their polling location tomorrow and just get those questions out of the way early.
Okay, and let's talk about going to the polls. And what if you're that person who didn't check ahead of time and you get to the poll and they tell you this is not where you're supposed to be?
So they will actually be able to text you or email you directions to the correct location. If you are 150% sure that that is somehow wrong, or sometimes more commonly people show up and their driver's license has expired. They didn't realize that. So the poll worker says, yeah, this is not a valid form of ID because you have to show a photo ID. Now what they're checking is your photo and your name, And if that doesn't happen, then what you can do is you can request a provisional ballot. You really, if you're really dead set on voting at that moment in that table, then what you have to ask is you have to ask for a provisional ballot, fill it out. The election officials will check your information. They'll match your signature. If everything checks out, your ballot will be put into the pile to be counted. So that's a really important thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that if for some reason you don't have time to go somewhere else or to go to City Hall, you can ask for a provisional ballot.
Let's talk about ballots themselves and perhaps ballot issues. Of course, technology can be somewhat finicky. When you have that ballot and you feed it in the machine there, there's a lot of people around. There are ballot workers who see what happens. Talk with us a little bit about that. There are unforeseen circumstances. You can test all the machines to the day is long, but then actually game day, things arise.
So we did have a few polling locations a couple of years back with the new machines that did have some issues with the paper feeding. We have talked to the manufacturers. The board has done a lot of work with this. And I was able to get a grant from the Democracy Fund to pay a URI professor to work with the board in terms of how the lines work at the polling locations to make it flow more easily and readily tomorrow. So I'm hoping that all of that good work will give fruit tomorrow.
Because there are instances, and this did happen several years ago, as you said, a machine is just not taking it. They can then, in fact, take the paper ballot, and then that will be certified. Yes.
Sealed. What happens is, if for some reason the machine is down, which I don't expect it to because these are new machines, but say the power went out and the battery on the machine is no longer working, they do have a very special part in the voting machine where they can insert voted on ballots that are later then scanned by bipartisan election officials. It's all on the up and up. It really is. There's a lot of checks and balances to precisely deal with possible failures in technology.
Let's talk a little bit, if you're at the polls and you perceive some sort of issue beyond ballot, coercion, or something that you think bubbles up to the level of something that needs to be brought to authorities' attention, where do folks start?
Yeah, no, you can go to your local board of canvassers, the Board of Elections, or my office, and we'll direct you. In some cases, some people call the state police, but start with your local board of canvassers and register the complaint there. And I think for most cases, it's all handled pretty well.
And so you talk about other roles as well, board of canvassers, state police. U.S. Attorney's Office even has a role.
That's right. The U.S. Attorney, the FBI, everybody is on watch tomorrow. We're making sure that people can have access to that important right to vote at the same time that they can trust the integrity of every vote.
Let's talk emergency ballots. You were talking some numbers earlier.
Yes.
Do you want your cheat sheet here?
No, I know. I actually did learn it. So 2 years ago, we had a total of 2,200 emergency mail ballots. These are the ballots where you go to city or town hall within 20 days before the primary. So today is the last day for emergency mail ballots at 4 o'clock at your local city or town hall.
It happened. It's closed.
Oh, it happened. It's closed. That's right. It's after 4. So right now, as of 12:30 today, we had accounted for 2,800 emergency mail ballots. And I think what this shows is that Rhode Islanders want that flexibility. We've been telling Rhode Islanders you have 3 ways to vote in Rhode Island: mail ballot, emergency mail ballots, and the day of. And so I think people are availing themselves of those opportunities.
And that you had some legislative components to that as well.
I did. I had an early voting bill that unfortunately did not make it through this session. I'm going to go for it again should the voters agree that I can have a second turn as Secretary of State, which I hope so. We will be continuing to talk to the legislature to see if we can really get an early voting process that actually includes Saturday and Sunday before the election. People's lives are very crazy these days. I know that as a working mom, and I want to make sure that everybody who can and is eligible to vote does vote.
Anything else on the voting day itself have we not touched upon?
The biggest thing is, go to vote.ri.gov. Everything you need to know about tomorrow's election is there, other than the candidates' views and positions. Those you have to Google somewhere else. But the mechanics of voting, where you go, how you do it, what you bring, all of that is on vote.ri.gov. And, as we're saying in our office, be a voter.
And so, as you said, you kind of hand it off to the Board of Elections for a number of reasons. And of course, come 8 o'clock tomorrow night, that is very much their purview. Let's talk a little bit about that, election results coming in at that point after the polls close. once those numbers are reported and they're with the Board of Elections website, that information is available online?
Yeah, that information is online at the Board of Elections website. It's an unofficial result. The official results happen several days later, once the dust settles in terms of all the counting of mail ballots, emergency ballots, and all that. But there is a unofficial transmission of the results that's done quick and dirty, fast, so that people like you and all of our media can say what's happening, who's winning. But the official ones are later on.
So you're encouraging voter turnout. Let's talk one last maybe piece of it. If you're someplace in a neighborhood that maybe has elderly people, is it good to check up on them, that they just say, hey, just curious? And
absolutely.
You got plans, and if you can help out, help out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Elderly, making sure that all of our community can go out to vote is really important. So if you can help somebody get to the polls tomorrow, in fact, I would hope that everybody, young, older, middle-aged, that the topic of conversation tomorrow is, have you voted? I don't see your sticker on. Have you voted? And make sure that we make this a community effort. People think that one vote doesn't matter. It really does, especially in those local races. But even in the statewide, look at me. I was that candidate nobody thought could win. And the most common thing that people said to me was, wow, Nellie, congratulations. I voted for you. I didn't think you were going to win. So there were a lot of people,
thank you.
Yes, exactly, that didn't think so. And yet they voted. If they had not, they have said, oh, she doesn't have a chance, I have to go, and not voted, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But they did vote, and that's what's really important. Elections are all about that collective force of all these individual votes. So it's really important to go to vote.ri.gov, get ready, get prepared to be a voter tomorrow.
Now, curious question for you in the Secretary of State's office as you talk about, let's talk a little bit about the disaffiliation process and checking before you're at the poll. And again, if you enter one or the other primaries as you declare to be a Democrat or a Republican and then say you want to be disaffiliated. Do you guys keep track of those numbers of who goes into the primary and then who disaffiliates?
Yes, those are absolutely, we don't keep track of them, but the data is there for people to analyze.
It will be interesting. Do you expect a big voter turnout tomorrow?
So that's the hardest question.
The million-dollar question.
The million-dollar question. We don't venture out into that realm of trying to guess what's going to happen, but we do try to make it easy for everybody to go and show up and be a voter.
Well, hopefully the weather will be cooperative. The sun is out here in downtown. Might be some rain in the forecast, but let's be honest, there's other parts of the country that are getting
much worse.
A little more rain than us here tomorrow. So keep that in mind. If things happen, and it could be worse. You could be in Hurricane Florence's path. Anything that we haven't hit upon? You've got a sheet here with a lot of information. Apart from checking out GoLocal Probs, 10 things to know.
That's right. You check that first, and then from there you can go to vote.ri.gov to find all the information that you need for the primary election tomorrow, September 12th.
And if you're at the polls and you see the secretary, say hi.
Yes.
And be sure to tune in to GoLocal for coverage throughout the day. We're also going to have election night coverage here in studio on GoLocal Live with a great lineup of pundits and politicians here in the studio. So we look forward to seeing you throughout the day tomorrow. And I do want to thank Secretary of State Nellie Gorbea for coming into the studio. Don't go anywhere. I'll be back to wrap up here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center.